Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes.
So it is because of this reason that when you use a agarose gel and when you use a polyacrylamide gel, the resolution in case of phase gel is very high. When you see the band pattern, it will be very sharp band because there the pore size is uniform. Whereas in case of agarose gel, when you see the band, will get a band, but then when you compare it with the phase gel, the resolution will be less, right? Last is viscosity of the buffer which you are going to. So it is inversely proportional to the electrophoretic mobility. So if your buffer is more viscous, so it will resist the movement of the molecule which you are going to separate, right? So we have different type of buffers, and maybe in coming slides I'll show you some type which we are using for the to term rate of migration. Migration is basically movement. Rate of movement is directly proportional to the current, charge, and voltage, whereas it is inversely proportional to the shape, size, and frictional resistance. Current. So now this current word is very dicey when you are using in terms of electricity. So current, basically we prefer to have a current about 45 to 50 or 60 milliamperes. Whereas in case of phase gel, we need to decide this current based on the unit which you are going to use. If you are using a phase unit, so the current should be more than 25 milliamperes. You can ask why? Because if you increase the current more than what is the limit for that instrument, so this current will create a temperature heat, and because of that molecule which you are going to separate will not able to separate in the same form, rather it will deform its structure and will hamper the separation process itself. And in case of phase gel, it has been reported that if you increase the current, so most of the glass which you are going to use, so there will be crack on the glass plate because of heat which is going to be generated because of high current which you have provided. So this current is very important variable when you are planning to go for electrophoresis, and we should have a very clear cut information that what current in case of this particular electrophoresis, right? Then charge and voltage, same thing. As I told, all these three follows the Ohm's law, and then we have to be very particular when you are going to decide the value which you are going to use for running your electrophoresis unit, because any of these three parameters, if you increase, so it is correlated and it will have an effect on the separation of the or the migration of the molecule which you are going to target. Coming on to right hand side, inversely proportional. So shape, size, and frictional resistance. So many times we have seen that some of the molecules like plasmid, when we are going to separate plasmid using electrophoresis, many times in your lab we have seen that your or maybe the researcher who is working on that, he will preheat particular sample. So this is called as preheating or pre-warming before loading. So pre-warming is done at maybe a 40 degree or 60 degree, sometimes 72 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. The purpose of pre-warming is that we want to have a uniform shape of the molecule which you want to separate. Because of increased temperature for short duration, so it will take the uniform shape, and then when you load it on the gel, so there will be uniform separation, right? Similarly, size, similarly frictional resistance. So all these three are important parameters and variables which have a potential to affect the separation of the molecule through electrophoresis. So we should remind the rate of migration is directly proportional to current, charge, and voltage, and it is inversely proportional to the shape, size, and frictional resistance. So coming on to the factors which affect the electrophoresis. So since we are dealing with electrophoresis, we should know what are the factors which affect the electrophoresis. Yeah, any question? No. The rate
Hello.
of, yeah.
Sir, can you repeat pre-warming?
Okay, so many times in your lab, those who are working or those who are working in the lab, so many times you have seen that maybe your concerned chairman or the researchers, before loading some of the samples, they will pre-warm it. Pre-warm means they will keep it at maybe 40 degree or 60 degree or 72 degrees Celsius on dry hot plate for 5 minutes or maybe 2 minutes or sometimes 10 minutes. So the purpose of pre-warming is once you pre-warm it, so the molecule which is inside that solution, so it will take a uniform shape. So once it will take a uniform shape, let us take example of plasmid. So plasmid will take different shape when it is in the solution. But when you pre-warm it, it will take a linear circular shape, and when you load it, so you will get a very sharp bend on the gel. So it is because of this purpose that pre-warming is one of the very popular activity which people they are doing before loading some of the samples, not all. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so now I was telling that some of the factors which affect the electrophoresis are a net charge on the particle. So the molecule which you are going to separate, what is the net charge on that particle? It influences the separation of that particular particle. Next is mass and shape of the particle. As you all know, the location or the position of the, just 1 minute, somebody is trying to admit this. Yes. So mass and shape of the particle. So this mass is and shape is very important in terms of your protein, and even in DNA, of course, also people they are using this. So you might be knowing that SDS phase, one of the main objective of SDS phase, other than the profiling, is to find out the molecular weight of protein, right? This is the main one of the main objective of SDS phase. So this and shape of the particle influence the migration or the movement of that particular particle on the gel. Mass is high, the migration will be very low. Shape is extended. You have to think in that way. If shape is extended, I think people still they are joining. Okay.
Voice
So
clear नहीं आ रही, sir.
it is not. Hello. Is it now?
Voice clear नहीं आ रही, sir.
Just give me 1 minute. Can you please mute your mic, all of you? Now is it audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I was telling some of the factors which affect the electrophoresis are net charge on the particle. So the particle which you are going to use, whether it is a protein or whether it is RNA or DNA, so it influences the movement or migration of your particle. Then mass and shape of the particle. So I was telling that SDS phase, you might be knowing it is one of the very popular technique which is used for proteomic characterization. So this mass, so it is also used for the identification of molecular weight of unknown protein. Similarly, in case of DNA and RNA also, we are using this to find out the size. And regarding the shape, most of the time it has been seen that if a molecule has extended shape, so the movement will be slow. If it has a compact shape, the movement will be fast, as per the electrophoretic mobility rule. Then pH of the medium. So you might be knowing that all the buffers which we are using basically for DNA or RNA are slightly alkaline. So pH will be around 8 or 8.3 or 8.2. Even for protein also pH is slightly alkaline. So this is because of the charge which these particles accumulate because of the unit in their structure. So pH is one of the important parameters which also not only decides the movement, but it also decides the resolving or the resolution of that particular particle on the gel. So many times we have seen that in case of agarose or in case of SDS phase, when you run your sample, there will be very mixed band. So it will be very dicey, cloudy like band will come. And many times when you run, it will be very sharp. So this cloudy, fuzzy, or the sharpness is directly correlated with the pH of the buffer which you are going to use, right? So pH of the medium is very important. Then coming on to strength of electric field, I have already explained this. So there is a standard convention for different units, and then what should be the electric field which we should use. For example, in case of isoelectric focusing, Can any one of you tell me what is the electric field or what much electric potential we are using, how much volt we are using in case of isoelectric focusing? Any one of you? Any idea? Let me tell you. So in case of isoelectric focusing, we are using up to 12,000 or 18,000 volts. Up to 12,000 or 18,000 volts, and not for 1 minute or 2 minutes. Most of the time it will be from 30 minutes up to 2 hours. So this volt basically it varies with the type of technique which you are going to use. In case of DNA, the most common volt which you are using is 80 volts. So in case of protein, the most common volt which you are using is 50 to 60 volts. So this voltage or the electric field has been standardized for different units, different particles, different durations, different amounts. So that should be very clear. Then coming on to properties of supporting medium. So supporting medium means the matrix which you are going to use to separate the particles. For example, agarose gel or the polyacrylamide gel. So these are the supporting medium. So earlier people, they are using cellulose also, or cellulose acetate also, or paper also. So now we are using most commonly supporting medium used is agarose and then polyacrylamide gel, paste gel. Coming on to temperature, as I told, this is one of the crucial factors. Temperature should be like 1 and above the room temperature. It should not be more than that, because most of the time temperature directly hinders the resolution of the molecule. So most of the time temperature will interfere with the resolution of the particle which you are going to separate, and then your band will be not clear. In case of SDS phase, temperature is directly correlated with the crack in the glass plate, and you all might be knowing that glass plate which we are using in case of SDS phase is very costly. So temperature is one of the important factors we have to take into account. It should be in and around the room temperature. Now here you can see some of the diagrams which I have shown here. Like you can see the separation. So two different units I have shown here, where we have the mixture of DNA molecules which has been loaded. You have a power source, power supply, then you have a cathode and anode electrode, and then there is a separation. If you see the separation, so now can you tell me that a band which is at almost 1 kV and the band which is at a 500 base pair, so which one will have a high rate of migration?
500 base.
500 base.
So that it means when and it will move as compared to that of just I think please don't use it. Okay, and this is just to tell you that if you see here, two terms have been written here. One is shorter molecule, other is longer molecule. So the shorter molecule or the small fragment will have high rate of migration and movement will be very fast, whereas longer molecule or the molecule with high base pair, so that will have a small or the rate of migration will be slow. Now coming on to the movement. So can you tell me in case of gel, where this DNA or the RNA moves, in which portion of the gel? Suppose if you are loading your sample onto the agarose gel and when you provide the electric field, so what is your idea where this DNA will move in the gel?
Pores, sir.
The pores is there, but like at the upper
Through the
side,
pores.
yeah, it will move through the pores, but whether it will be at the upper portion of the gel or the downstream portion of the gel or the side of the gel or medium or middle of the gel, from where it
Middle.
Upper portion of the gel.
Sides of the gel.
Upper portion.
portion. So let me tell you, when you load your samples, let us take example of DNA, and when you provide the electric field, it will move from the bottom portion of the gel and it will move in a serpent way. It will move from the bottom portion of the gel and it will move in a serpent way. It is because of this reason that when you are doing blotting, so we use on the gel upside down. In case of blotting, whether it is a southern blotting or for the sake any blotting, we used to turn the gel upside. Upside down means upper part will be at the down and bottom will be at the up. It is only because of the reason that DNA always move from the bottom of the gel and the movement is in a serpent way. Please write this. Movement will be in the serpent way and the movement is at the bottom of the gel. So a lot of theories are there. So two things which is important which you should know is, one is the movement at the bottom, other is movement in a serpent way. Effect which is called as sieving effect. If you see the diagram, there is a gel process and then there is a gel concentration, right? Different concentration has been used here. First one is where low gel concentration has been used, 0.6 to 0.8%. Second, entropic trapping, where a gel concentration has been used around 1.5%, 1.5%. And third is 2%. Now, if you see the movement of the particles, right? In first case where the gel concentration is very low, so the pore size is very away from each other. So there is not much cohesion between one and the other particle. So the molecule which you are going to put most of the time, it will move as such. So the sieving or the sieving effect on that molecule is very low, and this is called as Austin sieving. Very low. So it will move as such as its structure, and then because of this, when you see the band, most of the time there will be dragging on the gel, drag. So there will not proper. Is it okay? So coming on to second, that's entropic trapping, where we are to use around 1.5 to 2% of the gel concentration. So here, most of the time, it has been seen that since the cohesion between the particle is very high, for DNA or for the sake any particle starts moving in this, it will get a lot of sieving effect, lot of resistance will be there, and it has to move from one pore to the other. And during this movement, most of the time the structure will unfold or unwind. So because of unfolding or unwinding, when you see band on the gel, it will be take a typical size or the typical shape of a band, and the resolution will be very high. Means here the sieving effect is medium, and this movement takes place at the bottom of the gel. Third is the repetition. So this is a term where we are using a high concentration of the gel, where the pore will be very frequent, and then the cohesion or the attraction between the particle will be very high. So here, if you see also initial step itself, when you provide the electric field and once your particle enter inside the gel, it will take the linear step. So in this case, most of the time, the perfect band, the perfect shape of the band we used to get in repetition type of sieving effect. And can you tell me this high molecular weight gel, high concentration, where we are using this? Where the
Page.
Page.
Page 4.
Every time we are not using high concentration in case of phases. My question is, for what purpose one should recommend to go for concentration of gel, whether it is aqueous, whether it is SDS? What condition?
Smaller molecule separation.
When the sample is smaller in size, sir.
Particle size are smaller.
Yes, particle size is smaller. Like suppose you have to separate your primer, which has 20 or 22 base. How you are going to separate? So you have to make a high concentration of the gel. Because if you have to run your real-time PCR Amplicon is the amplified product of real-time PCR. So that is small, 100 base there. So definitely you have to use high concentration of the gel. Even in SDS phase also, or in case of sequencing gel also. So the high concentration is used when cell which you are going to target is small or it is a small fragment. In that case, it's always recommended to go for high molecular, for concentrated gel. Now here if you see some terms I have written here, one is size. So bigger the molecule, greater the frictional and electrostatic forces exerted by the medium. So if size is big, so it will exert greater frictional as well as the electrostatic forces which will be exerted by the medium. Second is larger particle has a smaller mu, whereas a smaller particle has larger mu. What is this mu?
Mobility.
Electrophoretic mobility.
Next, if you see shape, so I have written that round exerts lesser frictional and electro retardation, right? So when you have, if you three structures are here, superquoid, other is linear, other is relaxed or the circular or the Nick DNA. So the shape which is very compact will move faster, will have very high mu value, whereas the shape which is extended will be entangled in the pores and will have a less electrophoretic mobility. One term I have written at the book, that is globular protein moves faster than the fibrous protein. So this is important. Many times it has also write this, that globular protein, because of its shape, moves faster than the fibrous protein which has extended shape, and then most of the time it will be entangled in the pore space of the gel or the medium. So now moving on to the buffer. So if you see here, I have written the buffer in electrophoresis has two main objectives or purposes. One is to carry applied electric current, because current has to pass through certain medium. So buffer is one of the medium. And other is that they set the pH at which electrophoresis is carried out. So the pH at which your electrophoresis is going to take place, and then it acts as a medium for the current to pass from one electrode to the other. Okay. So the buffer, basically they determine type of charge on the solute, then extent of ionization of solute, and then electrode towards which the solute will migrate. All these three depends on, I think still people they are. Okay, so these three are the factors which are basically decided by the buffer, and many times we have seen that in case of DNA or the RNA or the protein, we have a specific buffer which people they are using. For example, in case of protein, can you tell me what type of buffer we are using?
Phosphorus.
In case of protein, what type of buffer we are using?
Trace buffer.
TA.
Trace
No.
buffer. Trace acid.
Trees and
Yeah, it is a tris glycinate buffer, right? So tris Cl is basically a buffer. Tris glycinate is used in case of phase. We also used to call it as Lemley buffer. Lemley is based on the name of the person who discovered this, right? And most of the time, the extraction also, like most of the time when you are extracting any sample, so you need to have a specific buffer for that. Now, can you tell me why? What is the purpose of using a specific buffer when you are going to extract any sample?
The sample is soluble in that buffer only.
No, that is not the purpose of buffer.
To protect the macromolecule from degradation from many others.
Structure should be
Not to
maintained
change the
stable.
properties of the
Exactly.
molecules.
Stabilize, it will stabilize the structure or the property of the molecule which you have isolated. And other than this, one of you told that it protects also. Very true. Most of the time in buffer, we are using some of the chelating agent which will protect. But most of the time, buffer is as such, and the purpose is to maintain the structure or the property of that particular molecule. So it should not hamper when you are running or when you are going to separate it on the gel. Is it clear? So in case of electrophore system also, we have a big list of buffers. I'll show you some of them. Yes. So we have a big list of common buffers which we are using in case of electrophoresis system. If you use the term tris EDTA buffer, TAE buffer, right? So here you can see we have a phosphate buffer, we have a tris borate buffer, we have acetate buffer, we have a tris glycine buffer, which is most commonly used in case, we have a tris EDTA buffer, which is basically used for your DNA. We have a tris malic acid, which is not commonly used, and then lithium borate buffer and the not commonly used. So the most commonly used buffer out of this is phosphate, then TAE buffer, tris acetate EDTA buffer, and then TE buffer, tris EDTA buffer. So TE buffer, which is most common, these three are most commonly used. Now you have to tell me what is the function of EDTA in these buffers.
For chelating.
Chelating.
Chelates the ions.
Exactly. So it chelates the ion, and then what is the part? Why we want it to chelate the ion? Why we want EDTA to chelate the ion? What is the purpose?
So if
Otherwise, the
suppose there is a
ions
DNA
that are
degrading
present-
enzymes, those
Yeah.
are not active, sir.
Exactly. So all
The
the
actors, cofactors for this.
all the nucleases, they are basically a metalloenzyme. They have one or the other metal as cofactor, and when you add
cofactors.
enzyme, so it will chelate and it will not allow all those nucleases to act on the particle which you are going to separate. So it means during the process, your particle or the integrity of the particle will be maintained, stabilized. So when you separate, it will be basically based on the structure of the particle and not because of degraded thing, right? Okay, in case of RNA, most of the time we have seen we are using different components to make a cell, right? And when you run, so most of the time we'll get a smearing. So what may be the reason? In case of RNA, is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in case of RNA, most of the time when you run RNA on the denaturating gel, so there will be a smearing. Even though RNA quality is good, but when you run it on the gel, it will degrade. And because of degradation, we get a smearing. The reason is that the buffer which you are going to make,
Yes.
most of the time, it's recommended that it should be made in DPC treated water, diethyl pyrocarbamate treated water, which degrades the RNAs, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here I have written buffers, but then this buffer always comes in a combination based on the molecule which you are going to separate. This is the first important point. Second is the pH which I have written here. Though here it has been written around, above, more than, but then pH is very specific and one should not breach this pH value, because this pH has a direct effect on the resolution of the particle which you are going to use. Suppose if 8.3 is the pH for PE buffer, and if you make 6.8, and when you run it, most of the time that the DNA which you are going to separate, it will show a fuzzy or the cloudiness, and most of the time the resolution will be very low. It's only because of the change in the pH which you have. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now you have to tell me, suppose if we are not using a buffer, in place of buffer, if you use water for making a gel, what happens?
It will heat
The
up, sir.
ions required for
Yes, please tell me, anyone.
So
the ions which are
dielectric
required for
constant
the
of
movement.
water is responsible for that.
So suppose, I think you might be knowing that when making a grow gel or for the sake any gel, so most of the time we are using the buffer for making the gel, right? 1x buffer is used. Now suppose in case 1x, if we use water, so what will happen?
The gel will heat up, sir.
Gel will heat up. No, it will not heat
It
up.
will not provide the required ions for the
There will-
movement of the molecules.
There will be no proper current movement, sir.
So it has been observed, and same happens with me also. When first time I run this electrophoresis during my MSc, the same thing happens. I use water in place of the buffer, and it's not like that there will be no movement or something like that. Within 5 to 10 minutes, your gel which you have casted will dilute into the water which you have used. So it means within 10 minutes, when you run this gel, because of your current, and since no ion is there inside the gel, your gel slowly will disfigured and it will dissolve in the buffer which you have used in the tank. So it will disappear. Is it clear? If you are not using buffer for making gel, and when you run it within 5 to 10 minutes, your gel will disappear. First, pore will be disintegrated, and then it will mix in the buffer which you have used in the tank. Okay, so this is a list. So as I told, 3 out of all these big lists, 3 are important. Most commonly we are using. pH is very important, which has direct effect on the resolution of the molecule which you are going to. So coming on to supporting medium. So supporting medium, it is basically a matrix in which you are going to separate your particle, whether it is the DNA or the RNA or the protein. So left hand side, I have written some of the supporting mediums like paper, cellulose, agar gel, even a starch grain are using in case of capillary, even polyacrylamide gel also. So these are some of the gels which we are using. And here you can see some of the properties of the matrix which you are going to use for the separation of these molecules, like chemical nature. Whatever matrix or the supporting medium which you are going to use, chemical nature should be inert. It should be inert. It should not react with the molecule which you are going to separate. It should be easily available. It should have a high electrical conductivity. Adsorption should be low, so that when you are loading your particle, it should not adsorb on the surface of the matrix. Then it should have a desirable sieving effect. Pore should be controlled one. Transparency should be high, so that when you are running your particle, easily you can differentiate between one band and the others. Then there should not be the electroendosmosis. I think this term I have not told you. Electroendosmosis is the hindering effect because of the wall of the matrix which you are going to use. So there is a wall of the matrix, and when you run something particle, if there is a hindrance because of the wall of the matrix, that is called as electroendosmosis. So it will hinder the movement of the particle which you are going to separate. Then rigidity, it should be moderate too. It should not be highly rigid. It should not be very plumpy, so that when you pick your gel, it should break into 2 parts. So it should be. Then it should not be toxic, and the preparation should be easy. So these are some of the qualifications for a supporting medium. So it has been asked that what are the quality which one should find out in any supporting medium. So these are some of the quality which one supporting medium should have. 2 of the most important supporting medium which we are using nowadays is DAS and DAS. Please tell me, what are those?
Agarose and
Agarose and polyacrylamide.
Good. Coming on to agarose gel, I have listed points, but before that, you can see the picture. So this is the casted agarose gel. This is the separation of the DNA molecule on the gel. Left hand side, you see the subunit of the agarose gel, which is basically called as agrobios, and this is the SEM structure of the agarose gel. This is agarose gel structure. So it has a 3-dimensional matrix which is formed of helical agarose molecules. So 3-dimensional matrix, this is important, which is formed of helical agarose molecules. It is basically a supercoiled bundle that are aggregate into this 3D structure. It has channels and pores which biomolecules can pass. It is basically a polysaccharide which has been extracted from red seaweed, right? Agar-agar is basically extracted from the seaweed. Gelidium and Gracilaria. So these are the names. It is a linear polymer made up of the repeating unit of agrobios, and it is a disaccharide which is made up of D-galactose and 3,6-N-hydroL-galactopyranose. So these 2 are the subunits, which is basically the structural subunit of this particular agarose. And then it has a 3D structure. Here you can see the model. This is casted gel, and this is the separation of the DNA molecule, the gel. Now see the SEM of agarose gel. So this is the scanning electron microscopy of agarose gel. So one fragment so nicely intervened with the other, and then our molecule is going to move from this on. Right? So this is the agrobios structure, repeating unit of this. This is the model. Here, this is the individual strand. You are going to make the gel. So for that, you have to heat in the buffer, and once, yes, hello. So this is the scanning electron.
इधर से कोई भी आता है इधर बैठने के लिए इधर आके सो
So this is the scanning electron microscopy gel. This is the repeating unit of the called as agrobios. This is the model of the pore size. So this is the form of agarose, and when you heat it at 100 degrees Celsius with the buffer, first initial gel will be, and then once upon cooling, it will polymer in this structure and size. So this is agrogel, which is very popularly used in the lab on routine basis. Coming on to other gel, which is very commonly used in proteomic characterization, that is called as polyacrylamide gel. So here you can see polyacrylamide gel. So these are created by the polymerization of acrylamide monomers with the N-methylene bisacrylamide. So it is acrylamide and bisacrylamide. This is bisacrylamide, this is acrylamide, and then when these two polymerizes, so you have a cross link like this, and this is basically the polyacrylamide gel. Here you can see this is a model where different tunnels are there, and this is the gel. These are different snapshot of scanning electron microscopy of SDS phase. So basically for this polymerization, we are using two different free radical initiators. One is persulfate and other is TMID, tetramethylene diamine. These two are basically used to initiate the polymerization reaction. We have a light photopolymerization also, where just you dissolve these two and keep it in light with the riboflavin. Ultimately it will polymerize. Another is that you are going to use a fresh ammonium persulfate and TMID to polymerize these two in the form of this cross-linking gel. This polymerization, if you see the last 2 points, the chain reaction means the polymerization is inhibited by molecular oxygen. So if oxygen is there, it will inhibit the free radical polymerization reaction of polyacrylamide gel. Many times it has been asked what type of reaction initiates the polymerization of phase gel. So it is free radical reaction which initiates this, and if oxygen is present there, so it will hinder the polymerization of phase gel. It is because of this reason that once we make a acrylamide and polyacrylamide mixture solution, so we used to go for degassing. Degassing means in vacuum condition, we are going to extract all the oxygen molecules which is present in this solution. This is called degassing of acrylamide and bisacrylamide. Degassing. So degassing, the purpose is to remove the oxygen molecules so that the polymerization should be perfect. Many times it happens that when you polymerize your gel, so if you add everything, you keep it half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, still it will be in the liquid form. It will not polymerize. The reason is a lot of oxygen molecule are there which hinders the free radical polymerization reaction, and it is because of this reason that your gel is not polymerized. So the answer is you have to degas your sample before loading. So once you degas the acrylamide and bisacrylamide, then you load it on the gel, then you add APS and this. So once you add these two and load it on the gel, immediately within 20 to 25 minutes, it will cast. It will polymerize. So last, polymerization is conventionally carried out between two thin glass plates with top of the gel solution covered with water saturated butanol. So basically when you are pouring your acrylamide and bisacrylamide solution, we are either adding a butanol or the isopropanol or sometimes water. The purpose is, one purpose is that we want to have a uniform surface at the top. So when you add this organic solvent, it is immiscible and it will form a uniform layer at the top. Another purpose is that it will hinder the oxygen from entering inside. So these two are the purpose for which we are pouring this organic solvent at the top of the liquid which you have poured inside the thin glass. So now this is very important. Many times this question has been asked that what are the differences between the agarose and the polyacrylamide gel. So some of the differences like composition, I have already told the composition of agarose and then polyacrylamide. Then run configuration, most of the time agarose is used in horizontally unit. Horizontal unit, most of the time we are using the agarose, whereas polyacrylamide gel is used in vertical unit. Then casting methodology that I have already explained you. Properties. So the agarose concentration, the smaller will be the pore size, and same holds good for acrylamide and bisacrylamide paste gel also. Then uses. So uses, I think I have already explained that agarose is more or less mostly used for DNA RNA separation, whereas phase is mostly used for protein separation. Now you have to tell me one example where phase is used for DNA. Please tell me one example where phase is used for the DNA. Any one of you?
Fingerprinting. Sir.
Yes, even fingerprinting also, and even in case of sequencing also. So Sanger sequencing. That case also, when you are running the sample, so basically we are using this polyacrylamide gel to separate the fragment of DNA, right? So pros and cons. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of these two methods, these tricks? So in case of agarose, if you see, the gel sets quickly. But the problem is the pore size is not uniform. But gel takes time. It will take almost 30 minutes to 45 minutes. The pore are uniform inside. So in case of agarose, gel can be refrigerated in a plastic bag or the film. So you can refrigerate, or you can put a buffer and you can keep your gel for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But in polyacrylamide, if you have to keep your gel, so you have to dehydrate it. Dehydrate means under vacuum condition, you are going to remove all the water so that it will be a crispy gel-like structure. And again, you can keep it for 6 months. And after 6 months, if you have to use, again rehydrate it by putting the buffer, and then you can use it for your running. So dehydrated phase gel is very popular nowadays. Nobody likes to cast phase gel because it takes time, 45 minutes to 1 hour. What people they are doing is they will purchase the pre-casted gel and then they will rehydrate it and they will use it for the running, right? So here pore size, so easily you can manipulate the pore size as well as the sheathing effect of the gel. In case of polyacrylamide gel also, most of the time easily you can manipulate by changing the concentration of acrylamide to acrylamide. But then as you increase the concentration, the viability or the brittleness of the gel will also increase, and then it will create a problem most of the time. Is in case of agarose gel, resolution is not high, whereas in case of polyacrylamide, you have very high resolving power. So coming on to cons, agarose gel, so as I told, it doesn't have a uniform pore size, and gel most of the time is very weak in case of agarose, whereas very intact and cohesive in case of phase gel. And there are other differences also, minor differences. And so when I will share the slide, so easily you can go through. Coming on to another part, that is electrophoretic unit. So basically we have two different type of electrophoretic unit worldwide. One is called as horizontal unit. I have here shown the figure also. Another is called as vertical unit. Horizontal unit is most commonly used for DNA and RNA, whereas vertical unit is most commonly used for the protein parts of the electrophoretic unit. So there are different parts based on the unit for the purpose you are using. For example, you have a power cable, you have an electrode, you have a tank lead, you have a casting dam, you have a gel tray, electrode, buffer tank, power pack. These are called as form. So these are some of the accessories you need to have when you plan to go for electrophoresis, when you plan to go for the use of this electrophoresis unit. And then based on the requirement, you should have a horizontal or the vertical unit. If you are using protein, so you cannot run it on the horizontal, you have to have a vertical unit so that easily you can separate it out. So I think that was in brief about a different basic principle of electrophoresis and then different variables which influence the electrophoresis or the electrophoretic separation of the particles. So I think next class I will go for the types of electrophoresis, and then one by one I'll take each and every type of electrophoresis, and then I'll tell you what are the uses of that particular technique, what is the basic principle, how we can plan, and how best we can use. So with this brief note, if you have any, you can ask, or any queries you can ask. Or you can send me your queries on the mail and I will love to answer, right? And the next class, yeah, and next class I think I'll try to organize it on Microsoft Teams, since I'm also not well versed with these things. This first time I'm taking this online classes on Zoom. So let's see, Microsoft Teams. So I will try. So I'll send you the invitation. Nikhil, I think whether he is present or not. Nikhil from West.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir, I am present.
Okay. Because I have not sent you that invitation, and even I have not received your mail ID also.
Okay,
So
sir, I've got in the group.
And there is one request that from next time, since I used to tell you the time also, time of this meeting, so I expect that at least be within the time. So many times when taking the class and many of the time in between, if you are coming, I have to approve. It means I have to remove my slides and then I have to approve. So this is my request that classes please be on time, so that it will be easy for us to organize this. Right, all your queries you can take it and send it to me so that I can respond. Right. So with this, shall I take?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
welcome.
Thank you, sir.